Yes, it is. So you are able to see the slides, right?
Yes, sir.
So we started with connections, okay, in the last class, this one. So this is what we said, okay, it's a fundamental. So in steel structures, the most important thing is the connections, and majority of failures, if you see, in real life situations in steel structures, majority of them will be in poor connection design only. And so that's why connections is given very important thing in steel. So first of all, one should know these connections, okay, how many types and others also. So we have already started this discussion. So we said bolted, welded, two types of things are there, which is recommended by the code. So bolts, of course, whatever, whether it's a bolt or a welding, say, the main design philosophy is, so you have to design the connection such that it will not fail. Okay, the members only will fail first, later only the connection. The reason is economy point of view, because 50% of the cost is connections only. Then connection failure, it is a very complicated. It's not like a ductile kind of a thing. It will be something complicated, so it's very difficult to analyze what is a failure theory, and then you see all those issues itself. So this also we said in our last class. So rivets and bolts we started. So rivets also I showed you. So rivets, anyway, it is outdated, but only thing all of you remember is clamp action. So this is a technical word, okay. So clamp means, so rivet your heart and then put, when you are drilling inside that hole. So, because of that, say, it shrinks, and then you see it creates a compression between the plates, and the load transfer happens via friction actually. Okay, so this is what they call as clamp action. So black bolts also we have seen in the last class. This is an ordinary, the bolt we are saying. The most important thing was the calculation of the stress area or proof area. Okay, this area is near the threads. Okay, what will be the area of this portion? So IS code gives a table, but our thumb rule is, if you know the area of the shanks, multiply by 0.78, approximately you can find out the tensile stress area of the bolt itself. Okay, and these bolts are not recommended for fatigue kind of a thing, because they will come out, and I have shown you a video also, when there is impact load, so the bolt just gives up and it just flies off actually. Okay, that is a important thing for this type of bolts. And then we said these HSFG bolts also high strength, they are extremely strong, the bolts itself. Okay, so the diameters we have seen, and these bolts, you can tighten them. Okay, you can tighten them very strongly, such that the plates becomes very close to each other, and friction starts gets developed, and the load transfer happens via friction. So these are the clamp action actually. So in rivets, how did we get clamp action? So in rivets, how did we get this clamp action? How did the friction get generated in rivets?
Pre-stressing.
The pre-stressing only in rivets, how did we, you saw the video, right? What they did, they heated, and the rivet was heated, okay, and then they were pressurizing, this side the head was formed. That's how the clamp action came. Now in HSFG bolt, if you want clamp action, say clamp means you have to generate friction, the load should carried by friction itself. So then you have to just tighten the bolt itself. Okay, so which is easy, clamp, if you want to generate friction, say, so rivet is easy or HSFG bolt is easy?
HSFG.
Because only you have to just tighten the screw, that's all. Okay, and as already I told you, tightening the screw you can't do whatever way you like. Okay, so there are special gauges. I have shown you also, washers, so you have to measure the tension level when you are pre-tensioning the bolt, right? So there are some guidelines are there. If you tighten the bolt too much, then the plate may break or the bolt may break also. So you have to avoid all those issues itself. Okay, so this also we have discussed in the last class. And the most important thing is the class 4.6, 8.8, 10.9, like that. You see, people say, they say use 8.8 bolt. Okay, so what does 8.8 tells me? Now tell me, what is the first number tells me? So we discussed, right? No, what ultimate tensile strength? So how much is ultimate tensile strength? Yeah, for 8.8?
800.
800. Excellent. Okay. And now what is this after the decimal say? What does this indicates? 0.8.
Yield strength.
How much is the yield strength for 8.8?
640.
It is not yield strength. It is a 0.8 times 8 will give you yield strength. Okay. So 640. So excellent. So this you should be able to identify. Okay. So this also we discussed. And finally, whenever you see any problems, say, okay, generally, after in the assignments and others also, whenever I mention 4.6 class bolt, in your brain automatically you should think it is a black bolt. Okay, no friction, no clamp action. The routine procedures may have to be used. If it is 8.8 bolt or 10.9, so automatically in your mind, you should think that these bolts clamp action will be there. So they transfer load through friction actually. So that it should come automatically for you. Okay. So HSFG starts from 8.8. These are the ordinary bolts, and some other bolts also are used maybe for some purposes. But these are the two things. So 4.6 and 8.8 and 10. These are the ones which are widely used in steel design. Okay, because bolts are not only important for civil steel structures, manufacturing automobiles, defense is a aerospace structures. Okay, so there are also a lot of bolts are required in piping system, machines, so many things are there. So they also will require all these kinds of bolts. So the code gives only general. Okay, it doesn't specify steel structure or any essential. So because the defense purposes, mechanical equipment, cars, bikes, everywhere bolts are required. So they will give general thing. But our civil engineering 4.6, 8.8, 10.9. So this you should remember. Okay. So now this also we said, and this is the most important thing. So now how do you tighten this HSFG bolt? So HSFG bolts here. So already snug tight position we say. Okay, there is one excellent video is there in YouTube. Okay, so this position, where is that? Yes, are you able to see right this one?
Yes, sir.
So you can just see how the tightening that happens. So these are mechanical they have shown. So now these bolts are already in snug tight. Okay. So this is in snug tight position itself. Now you have to make it clamp action has to come. So to make it clamp action, say, so these two plates or whatever, no, the bottom one, top one, the friction should get generated. So to generate friction, what they do is they tighten the bolt snug tight. You see how much times it has he has tied actually. Okay. So he takes a spanner, so you can see how many times he has none. That's it. Okay. So what happens automatically you follow right, there is no slip, and then you follow right, this clamp action gets generated. So if you do, it will be in snug tight position, so there will be small slip will be there. But if you do this just some 3/4 turn or something like that, so this gives rise to clamping force. So clamping force gives rise to friction itself. Okay. So this is how the bolts, you see, the this is not HSFG bolt, this ordinary. So he is just trying to see the stress strain curve and other things also in the video. But the most important thing you should do is snug tight and then this itself. Okay. So he has given elastic limit, the clamping this one. And if you do more tightening, say if you do over tightening, the plate may break, or even the bolt may also break. If it is not HSFG bolt, say, okay, then bolt will break. If it is other type of bolt, say, the bolt may the collapse itself. Okay. Now let us go back, okay, to our this thing. So now you can see how many to make it clamping force, how much turns he has taken. Already the bolt was in snug tight position. Okay, already it has been put up. Okay, but you have seen right, the spanner 3/4 only. He has not rotated completely. So automatically, if you do, the clamp force gets generated, and then these force. So in practice, they have a lot of machines will be there. They will be checking, okay, how much pre-tension that bolt was, what is the torque. They will do all kinds of things itself, because they're very important in steel structures. They have these type of washers. They do a lot of there are a lot of experimental things are there. You have to check in the they have equipment will be there to verify the torque and other things, say, to how much you have tightened also. Okay. So now when it comes to design, the most important thing, the first thing design when you are doing the bolts is the size of the hole. Actually, this is a very important thing. So the first thing, so for this, our IS code, you see class 10.2.1, there is a table in IS 800. Clearly it mentions So, in the code, instead of calling as bolts, sometimes they also use this word fastener, okay, because it's a Euro code, I think fastener they use, both are same, okay, there is nothing to worry. So now they will give you, so the diameter of the whole bolt is this one, say. So if there are 4 types of holes, the code specifies standard hole, oversized, short slotted, long slotted. So they will also give you these type of holes, maybe for the thermal joint expansion joints you may have to make, say, or maybe during erection you followed, right? There may be the errors will be there, that erection errors or something like that. So for all those things they also specify these type of holes to allow all those allowances or whatever you have, okay. But if things are all fine, say, people generally we use this standard hole itself. So if you want expansion joints, then you may have to go for long slotted, or where you may allow some type of expansion, these kinds of things also, okay. So this also we discussed. So what should be the clearances? So clearance means extra shape, okay. So like 24 mm dia, so you have to give clearance of 2. So the size of the hole is 24 plus 2, so 26 mm. So 24 plus 6, 30 mm. So 24 plus 8, that should be the size of the hole. So this also we discussed, okay. And now comes, you see, the arrangements of bolts actually. So generally our code also specifies one bolt is not sufficient for any problem, because we give redundancy also, right? In our structure analysis you would have been studied redundancy, we require. Although your problem may say one bolt is sufficient to carry the load, but what we generally do is we give some type of redundancy. We, instead of 1, 2 we should do. So minimum 2 or 3 bolts have to be used irrespective of the the problem itself. So now when there are 3 bolts, when there are multiple bolts, the question is how do we arrange them? So this also is a very, very important. So how do we arrange these bolts? Okay, what type of fashion you have to do? What should be the distance between the bolts? How you are going to arrange, whether you are going to arrange in a regular fashion, zigzag fashion, staggered fashion, then what should be the distance between these bolts? So all those things comes into picture. So this I am just showing here. So this is one plate, another there are 2, I think it's a butt joint, I will show you. So 2 plates, they are joined by some type of a joint. So now you can go this arrangement of bolts, say you can do like this. So this is a regular type of a bolting, we say, okay. So this is known as a chain bolting, just like your graph sheet XY you followed, right, in standard kind of a format. This is what we call as staggered bolting. So here you may have, but you may have bolt in between, you see. So it's staggered kind of a thing, it happens. Then there is a diamond patterns also are there. Very variety, the patterns are there. Diamond pattern, staggered pattern, you can go for any of these patterns. Later on we will see which is efficient, which is not efficient, that we will study later on. But for time being, say, variety of patterns are there actually. This is very simple to understand, is a chain bolting. So now here there are some technical terms are there. So now this is the load actually, okay. So the load, the load is applied something like this. So PP kind of a thing, say, okay. So you have a load here. So now this load has to be transferred. So now there are technical terms are there. So now this distance between the bolts, say, this is one bolt, this is another bolt actually, okay, in the direction of load, that is a parallel to the load direction. So this we call as a pitch, okay, pitch they say, or sometimes they also call this as longitudinal pitch also. Okay, some textbooks they write, say. Now distance between these bolt holes, this bolt and this bolt perpendicular to the load actually, okay. So this is known as G or gauge actually, okay. So gauge distance they say, or gauge also sometimes they call, or transverse pitch also. This is also same only, pitch only, transverse pitch. So these are some technical terms. So pitch, gauge. So pitch means parallel to load. Gauge means distance between the bolts perpendicular to the load. Like that they say. Sometimes some textbooks they say this is one bolt line actually. So this is a lines they say. One line, 2 line. So distance between these bolt lines they say it is a gauge or a transverse pitch. This is just a technical the word itself. Okay, pitch, then gauge, then the distance say. So this is my plate. Okay, the cover plate or whatever you have. So I have how much distance the last bolts is from this edge actual. So this distance we call this as end distance. So E1 I am writing here. So E1 is, you see, end distance we say. Okay, then we have E2 also, that is perpendicular, like for pitch also you have one distance, for gauge also you have another distance. So this they call as, you see, edge distance also. Okay, so some textbooks they edge end, of course the code gives the more or less the same guidelines. So what people, so they sometimes they write this way, that way also is possible. Like you see this textbook from where I have copied this figure, say he writes this as edge distance, but whereas this is theoretically you see it is the end distance, whereas E2 is you followed it is the the edge distance, but both of them they interchange and then they do also. Some textbooks what they do is instead of pitch and gauge, pitch means parallel to load, gauge means perpendicular to the load. What they do is if the size of the joint is more, say like for example like this here, so like if suppose the thickness is more in this direction, so they take this as a pitch also sometimes, okay, in the long direction, short direction also. But as far as our code is concerned, we use this type of the parallel pitch, perpendicular pitch. Perpendicular pitch is known as gauge, then parallel is end distance, perpendicular is edge distance. Okay, so E1, E2. So these are the arrangements. So if you want to arrange these bolts, you should know P, then gauge, then end distance, then edge distance. So this has to be fixed if you want to arrange the bolts actually. So now the code also gives, so this is also another figure I am showing you. So you can see this is a butt joint actually. Okay, so you have these are the main plates. So these are the cover plates we say. So two cover plates are there, top and bottom. Okay, so these are the bolts. So if you see from the top, so these are the edges of our cover plates. So these are the bolts. So now as already I told you, so distance between these two, say parallel to the load. Okay, so this is a pitch, this is gauge. Okay, so this distance is gauge distance, and from the edge of the plate to this one is end distance. This distance is edge distance, and this is our gauge actual. Okay, so this is the notation. Sometimes some designers you followed right a short direction, they take gauge not in the parallel to road or the perpendicular. So like you see the load is like this, parallel to load itself they are calling as gauge distance actually, because they say it's a short direction, long direction also. Sometimes you follow it, we use this terminology also. Okay, so now our code gives guidelines. What should be the minimum pitch actually, how much minimum pitch you should be there, what are the minimum. So our design values are pitch, gauge, end distance, edge distance. So these are the four values. So our code will give you the minimum values and then the maximum values you can choose. So minima, maxima of these values are the one which the code gives. Why this is required is as follows. Now for this, all of you should, you would have done in mechanics of material also. Like if I'm having a plate, say like this. Okay, if I have a plate or a bar like this subjected to this type of load, what will be the stress at this section, and the area of cross section, let us say, is A. Now what will be the stress distribution here?
P by A.
But how it is distributed, maybe I will just show it in this one. We'll go to this one. I have a bar. Okay, so huge axial bar you have, P, and then this is the load is P, area of cross section is A. Now if I take any section here, say what will be the stress, as all of you told, sigma is P by A. How it is distributed over the cross section? How it is distributed, uniform or parabola, or how it is distributed over the cross section? If I take a section here, some A dash, some B dash, say. So how it is distributed near this cross section? If I take any element, what will be the stress along all these fibers?
It is linearly distributed.
It is
linearly distributed.
Linear means how it is linear. So this is how it is distributed. So top fiber is 0, bottom fiber is like how it is distributed.
Oh, at the center.
Huh? So how it is distributed over the cross section? For axial problems, you have done in mechanics. The first thing, bar, something you would have done, right? This bar, this one, subjected to P, tension kind of a thing. Say, how you will do like this type of a problem, bar problem only. So now I am asking you at a cross section, stress is P by A, but how it is distributed from top to bottom of the cross section?
Sir, constantly. If you are assuming
constant. Excellent. Fantastic. Okay, so P by A, P by A, P by A, P by A, P by A. Fantastic. Okay, this is how it is. Linear is for bending. Okay, don't get confused. This type of thing. So everywhere it is P by A, P by A, P by A constant. Fantastic. So this is how it is distributed. This everybody knows. Now the same plate say. Okay, everything remains the same thing. So same P only. This is also P only. Now what I do is I will put a hole at the center. Some radius r or diameter d. Now you tell me what is the stress distribution here. Tell me how stress will be distributed. Now you have a hole actual. Now tell me it will be constant or what will happen. So what is the effect of a hole on the stress distribution?
So
Yes.
total area will decrease.
We have a
Total cross-sectional area will decrease.
cross-sectional area is decreasing. Fantastic. So what should happen to stress? We are interested in stress distribution.
Stress will be like constant, then 0, then constant again.
The where it will be 0?
Near the hole.
Near the hole it will be 0.
As in, yeah, it will be 0.
0 only. How come? You see. Suppose if I take far away from the hole, say here, what will be the stress distribution?
If it is far away from the end, then it will be constant.
It will be fantastic. Far away from now at the hole, how the distribution will look like. What is the most important word? Technical word we have. Whenever there is a hole, what happens? So now everywhere it is a P by A, P by A, P by A. Now here, what should happen near the hole?
Stress constant.
How much it should be? What should happen? Stress concentration is fine, but how the distribution looks like, when near the hole.
Sir, there it will be constant where there is material, and it will be 0 where there is no material.
What will be the values?
P by, I mean, it depends on the thickness of the plate also.
So thickness you have some number, okay, some 2 mm, 3 mm or something. Say that is how. So near the hole it is 0.
Yes, sir. In the hole it should be 0.
In the hole it is 0, but I am asking near the boundary.
Boundary there should be some
edge. Say at the edge between the hole and your plate. Say what will be the stress actually at the edge. Inside the hole anyway it's a free, no material, so it is 0. That is fine. Now how it will be? It will be more or small near this edge. What is the value? Near this edge, what is the value? Near this edge, what will be the value? See, once this edge, that is the top edge and the bottom edge, say what will be the value? Now, suppose this also is far away from the hole, say. So it has to be equal to
P by A.
P by A only. Fantastic. Now near the hole, what should happen? So the simple I'm asking you is whether it will be more or less than P by A. That's all.
It will be more.
It will be
more.
More. Okay, fine. So anyway, so you would have studied in mechanics also. So this will be P by A. You followed, right? So what happens is you will see these type of the distributions actually. You followed. So this becomes a constant. So you will see this type of distribution basically. Can you guess what is the value near the hole? So this is P by A. Fantastic. This also P by A. What will be the value near the hole? 2 times, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Just guess. No, don't worry. How much it should be? Double or 3 or 4 or 5?
3 times.
You told 3 times. Excellent. I don't know how did you arrive, but excellent. So 3P by A. So this is this one. So generally we call a stress concentration factor, which is ratio between this and this. So what is the effect of a hole? So whenever there is a hole, so what happens? Your stresses will increase by how many times?
3 times.
3 times actual. So this we call as a stress concentration factor actual. Okay, the stresses near the hole is 3 by A. If there was no hole, say the stress was P by A only. So now 3 times. So now and this holes, it will affect how much region from its inside. So this hole has effect actually. So here it is 3p by a. Now as you move slightly away from the hole say, then the stress is also high. But as you move far away from the hole say, then once again stress comes to p by a actually. Okay. So how much region is influenced by this hole? Approximately. Can anybody tell me how much region say is affected by this hole? This hole has a region of influence, we can say. What is the region of influence? So the whole diameter is our radius is r, say. Okay. So how much it will approximately influence before it becomes constant?
Maybe r itself.
Maybe r. So r means this is a hole. So you have one more circle here, which has r, another r. That is what you are trying to say, right? R.
No, sir. I think r by 2. Like
R by 2 you are telling. Okay. Okay. Fine. So anyway, I think that is fine only. But the thing is, it will be R only. Okay. Diameter will be itself. Okay. So generally, if you have to see this distribution, and then you have to find out where stresses are becoming P by A itself. Okay. So generally, the understanding is whenever you have a hole, say it should be D 2 times R. So hole, they say it has influence. If from this edges here, from the edges of the hole, you have to go via d, the diameter of the hole, that is 2 times r. So this hole has influence up to that much, the distance itself. So that is how we calculate the region of influence actually. So d, that is 2 times r from this edge, from this edge also. So they say the hole has the influence. So now, so what is happening? So whenever you have a hole, say the stresses are increasing by 3 times. Okay. So now in our bolts, you are making holes. So now what happens? So now let us say the same problem. Say if I do like this. Okay. Now I have one hole here, another hole here. Now what is going to happen? And how you are going to put the distance? So this is a center. This is the center of the hole cell. What should be this distance? How you are going to place? What is the guideline for you? Now I already told you one hole means stresses will increase by 3 times. Now,
more than 2r.
More than, so suppose if the holes are very, very close to each other, say what happens? So this hole will have this type of distribution. This hole also will have this type of distribution. When if you are very, very close, what happens? Both of them and all are positive only. You follow, right? What happens? The whole things gets added up also. So what is the guideline here? Nah.
They are further apart.
At least 2r.
Now 2R, no, what is the guideline? 2R is fine. What is the design guideline? So the region of influence, this hole will have some influence on some region nearby. This hole also will have a region of influence. So what is your design guideline? They should there should be a overlap, or you want them to be far?
It should be far, but there should be no intersection.
So this hole should not influence the other one. That is a design guideline. So that will tell you the minimum pitch required. You followed, right? Minimum pitch or minimum gauge actually, because gauge and pitch are nothing but distance between the holes. Now, so this is one guideline. Okay. Then another guideline also. Suppose if the holes are far away from each other, say like this, I have put one hole here, another hole, the joint actually. So like this, say what happens when the things are far away from each other?
No difference.
They don't have any effect.
They don't have any effect, and the load carrying, generally when they do the design, we suppose if the load is P, say, and let us say I have 2 bolts. So generally what I expect is each bolt should carry P by 2, P by 2. That is our guideline. Okay. P by 2 half load, P, the one bolt, half load another bolt. If they are far away from each other, say what happens? This load, how much load it will carry? This also will carry P. This also you followed, right? They will have no influence, you followed, right? That also, so and that is also another problem. Okay, the joint becomes very, very long. You followed, right? Joint also may come, and other kinds of problems comes. Another problem in steel structures, the problem is, so if they are very close to each other, say like for example, where is this one? Yes. So now if they are very close, very far away from each other, so this bolt and this bolt, if they are very, very far away, say what happens is, and this cover plate is a very, very thin plates actually. We use, like you see, very, very thin plate. Now suppose if I have a thin plate like this, and my one bolt is here, another bolt is here, and let us say it is subjected to compression, what happens? Very, very thin plate. and the bolts are far away from each other, what happens?
Buckling.
Local buckling. Be careful. Okay, whenever you say buckling, now you are in steel. Okay, global buckling is it, local buckling, you know, right? That classification also. What buckling is this one, global or local?
Local.
Local. Cover plate may break or something may break, so local buckling will also happen actually. So this will give a guideline on the maximum pitch or maximum gauge or something like that. You followed, right? So based on stress concentration, so if they are nearby, you have a problem of overlap. If they are far away, then local buckling will come. The joint becomes very long joint and the load transmission will not be fine. So you have all these problems itself. And then if the hole is very, very close to the edge of the plate, now what happens? See now, coming to the edge distance and end distance, I have one hole, I have a choice. Suppose if I put my hole very, very near to the edge itself, what will happen? That is end distance or edge distances are very, very small you have taken. So then what problem you will have?
It might crack.
It may crack or it may shear off actually. Okay, so this also is a problem. So the hole should not be very close to the edges or far away from the edges, so all kinds of problems are there. So based on all these things, our code specifies is the minimum value, maximum value. So now what the code specifies is the longitudinal pitch actually. So they say, what is the minimum pitch? What is the minimum pitch? What is the value? 2.5. Like one hole is here, another hole is here. So this is the center of this hole, center of this hole. So the distance between these two centers, it should be more than 2.5 times the diameter actually. Okay. So how this 2.5 came? Whenever you are having holes, say its region of influence is how much region? Its region of influence is so this is R. So its region of influence is 1 times the diameter. So from this to here, this is a diameter. Actually. If you are another hole, say its region of influence is a diameter, 1 diameter from its this one. So D plus D is 2, and then you give half also because you have to cover from inside itself actually. Okay, so that is how approximately this 2.5D they have arrived. And generally in practice, people take values between 3D to 4D. So to be on the safer side. So this is a design guideline. Now similarly for gauge also. Gauge is also longitudinal pitch or transverse pitch. For this also, gauge is also distance between holes only. Okay, the area of influence will be there. So this also 2.5D or 3D to 4D has to be taken. So this guideline comes from your the region of influence and other things also. Okay. So now coming to the max, tell me.
Sir, in the before slide, you said the region of influence had a radius of 2R.
No, that is from this edge. 2R is D only, right? D is equal to 2R diameter.
That is the radius, no? Or is the radius 3R?
No. Hold on. This is D. Okay. So that is if you want to calculate in terms of radius, so D is 2R. So 3R it is from the center.
Okay, sir.
From the center it is 3R, and you have another hole also, right? For that also you have a 3R. So 3 plus 3, how much it will be? 6 times R becomes. So 6R is same as 3 times D. You followed, yes, right?
Yes, sir.
That is how approximately these numbers comes. Okay. So this for is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is a design guideline actually. Okay. So this is a minimum pitch. So minimum pitch is required so that the region of influences are far away. Stress concentrations will not occur. Okay. Now for the maximum pitch, say, so the maximum pitch is guided by the local buckling. Okay. If the far away, it may buckle also because the members are very thin, and then load will not follow, right? That these problems will be there, and the cover plate long joint means you should have more cover plate. More cover plate means more economy, less economical. All kinds of problems are there. So they give this pitch, the maximum value of pitch for if it is a tension member, say 16 times the thickness of the plate or 200 mm. If it is a compression member, you can see they have decreased the 12 times T because the local buckling also may come into picture. So like this, the center of any two consecutive bolts, say in a line adjacent and parallel, should not exceed this one. 200 mm, and the staggered pitch say. So there is a guidelines are there. Okay, A to C may be increased by 50%. You know, so these guidelines are come. So all these guidelines basically they have been based on mechanics kind of a study itself. Okay, and this is for the transverse pitch or the gauge actually. So gauge and pitch more or less fine. So the maximum value you should not use 32 times a T or 300 mm. So minimum is 3D to 4D. Maximum is 32 times T or 300 mm for gauge. Now similarly for other things also you have this type of guidelines. Okay. Then this is for the end distance, edge distance. If as already I told you that end distance, if it is too close, it may shear off. Okay. If it is too far also you have a problem. So this also guideline the code gives edge distance, end distance actually. Okay, so from the plate, so they say, so for 12 mm dia say, so the code the formula is 1.7 times hole diameter. That is if it is sheared or hand flame cut actually. So that means you have made the specimens near your field, like welding, you have taken a steel flat, you have cut from that steel flat near the in the field itself through welding or whatever, through the flame or something if you have done say. So it is 1.7 times to be on the safer side. Suppose if the steel flat has come directly from the factory say, so factory means they would have done nice thing, so this can be reduced to 1.5 times hole diameter. Okay, so this is a guideline. So if it is a 16 mm bolt say, so my diameter of the hole, so diameter of the hole is standard size if you take 18 mm. So based on 18 mm say 1.7 times 18 mm will give you approximately 30, and this will be the 27 if it is a rolled kind of a thing. So this is also guideline. So this is the minimum guidelines actually. So this is a minimum edge and end distance. Okay, you have to use it. So to have that type of problems. Okay, now the maximum value say they give is 12 times T epsilon, where T is the thickness of the outer plate. Clearly the code specifies. Okay, so and epsilon is 250 by Fy. Of course, mild steel Fy is 250 only, so epsilon is 1 itself. So if the thickness of cover plate is 10 mm say, so then this becomes at 120 the mm. So this is a maximum value. And sometimes they also use this guideline also, whichever is higher you take 40 plus 40 also. Okay, so these are the maximum limits, these are the minimum limits. Okay, these are the minimum. So the code gives this type of guidelines. Okay, like vastu kind of thing, right? Bolts vastu. So if you want to put a bolt, this should be the minimum, this should be the maximum for end distance, edge distance. If you don't follow, then stress concentration is a big issue, efficiency of the joint reduces, local buckling happens, or the plate may break if the end distance or edge distance are very close say, then you may not get a very good efficiency. So these are the issues actually. So based on this the code gives. So I have picked up all the text from the IS code. Okay, so you can open your IS code, IS 800. If you go to the chapter 10 say, all these 40 plus 40, 1.7 times, everything is given in the code itself. Okay, I have copied from the code these wordings also. So now another most important thing is we have what we call as tacking bolts, okay, or what we call as the rivets also. So now these tacking bolts also, what they do is, suppose if you are designing a truss is here say, okay, so here you have a connection, okay, between the gusset plate and then this member, you have 3 bolts. So these are all ordinary bolts actually, which you have to design as per the previous thing itself. Now we put tacking bolts also here also. So now generally at a truss, what happens is you will be having 2 members. So you take one angle section. Okay, so this is one the angle section which you have, another angle section say. Okay, so both of them are connected near this plate. So you can see only one side only. So back side here. This is a gusset plate. Other side of the gusset plate, say there is one more the angle section. So this is another angle section. So this angle section is the one which is visible to you in the thing, but backside also one more angle section also is there actually. So now to avoid this local buckling say, because this side you are fixing it up, this side you are fixing it up, so there is a chance of local buckling because of the very thin individual buckling of this angle members. We also do bolting here also, which we call as tacking fasteners, or this stitching bolts also people call. So tacking is one word, stitching also. So you have to provide stitching, this type of bolts you followed it to avoid this tacking. So this is how the figure looks like. You are able to see here. So this is a bridge. So this is my gusset plate. Okay. So where you are, these are all ordinary bolts, like whatever we do pitch, gitch and other thing. Now can you see here? This is one angle section is here. Okay, this side. There is another angle section back side also. So now you can see here there is one bolt here. Here also they do bolting. Here also they do this bolting. For tacking bolts we say. So these two are the tacking bolts. If you don't provide say, then these angle sections individually you will see their local buckling also. Okay. So we do this tacking bolts or stitching bolts also. For this also code gives a guideline. So this is very, very important if you are designing the trusses. Okay. So this is what it says. So it says the maximum line pitch should not exceed 32 times T or 300 mm. If it is exposed to weather, say 16 times T or 200 mm, whichever is less. So they give these type of a guideline. So these tacking bolts are required to avoid the local buckling of the members. Okay, so local buckling of the members in the truss. These are very, very important for trusses because trusses we will be using angles which are very, very thin. There is a chance of the angle section may get buckled. So if you don't join them here, so this section may give up and it may buckle also. So for this, if you join them by attacking bolts, say, so their moment of inertia or whatever that gets increases. So automatically, the buckling load you follow, right? Increases and they may transfer more load also. So this is one more bolt which we use it in practice. So tacking bolt is there, ordinary bolts also is there. Okay. Now comes the types of the joints actually. Okay. So now we have seen if you want to. So now we know what should be the size of the holes. So this we have seen. Then we have seen the position of the bolts. Okay. The position of bolts also we have seen. So now the next comes, the design. Like so now in the design, how many bolts are required, what is the strength of each and every bolt, how many bolts are required. So this we have to come. So that is what we say as the design of the joints. Okay. So now here there are basically three types of joints. We say one is a simple connections. Okay, or a simple joint or something. So a lap joint, you would have heard butt joint. So they all come under this section. Trusses. Then flexible beam to column, say, so which means there is no bending moment, nothing, very simple. Tension connections, all those things comes under simple. Then we have eccentric connections also. So whenever there is eccentric connections, you may have a shear force, a twisting, this comes into picture. Then another type of connections are movement resisting connections are there, which is, they should have a huge rigidity to prevent rotation and others. So now in this course, we will be discussing all the three. But this is the one which we will discuss in detail. Okay, this also I will show you some simple examples. You will learn these things in more in the next course, that is design of steel structural systems. But we will solve some problems here also. This is like one type of a joint. Now these bolts, what type of you have to design, what type of stresses will be there in these bolts. Now, what type of stresses will be there here in these bolts? These two bolts, tension, compression, tension. Okay, this is general hanger connections. We say tension will be there. Okay, then here say, so these type of bolts are there. So here these bolts, of course, you will have what type of stresses will be there?
Shear and tension.
Shear and tension. Okay, these bolts will be having only this type of thing only, but here you are having another bolts also. So they will have a shear force plus tension will be there. So this is a concentric connections we say. See, concentric is like this. So if I have near the trusses, you will all these points, they will, they join at some point so that, the movement, will be zero kind of a thing. If it is eccentric connections, say, so they don't meet actually. Okay, they meet somewhere far away from the section or something. So they create some type of the movements also. Okay, and these are the the complicated. So the beam column connections we say. Now you can see these bolts say they are subjected to what type of load. What will be acting on them? Tension, compression, bending, or what will be there?
Bending.
Bending will be there. Then apart from that,
axial tension and compression.
Tension compression, of course, axial tension compression is same as bending stress is also tensile compression only. So bending stress is like this only, compressive tension only. Okay. Apart from that, what other force will be there? It is like a beam, So in a beam, what other things will be there? Bending, then other things.
Shear.
shear force or something. So you have to design for these two. Okay. Now you see here. Now on these bolts, what type of movements will be there? Like this one, the same one only. If I'm showing like side view, say what will be the stresses here?
Bending and torsion.
Torsion will be there. You can see, right? There is a load here and there is a lever arm. So torsion. Torsion means what type of stresses? Torsion generally.
Shear.
Shear only. So finally, when it comes to design, it is shear only. Although torque, you may say bending stress means a tension compression. It is say as good as axial thing itself. So shear will be there, bending will be there. So all kinds of things you followed, right, will be there in this section. So these are what we call as bracketed connections also. You follow it. So this also we will see how to design, the bolts and others also. We will see later on. Okay. First we will go. This is also bracketed connections only. So these are also widely used in steel structures. Okay. So now let us see the simple things which are very, very easy to solve. So first thing is you followed it, the lap joint. Okay. So this is how you see the joint, it looks like. This is a lap joint or whatever. And so you can see. So these are two plates, say. So they are joined by a, the bolt. So you have a tensile force here and a tensile force here. So this is a single row, one row only is there. So this is a thing plan here. If you see, the cross section, say this is, it looks somewhere like this, and you follow it, and this is a double row lap joint. So you have had two rows actually. So one row is here, another row is here itself. Okay. Sorry, I have to do it this way. This is one row. This is the one row. So if you see here, so you have these type of joints here. So this is a very, very the most simplest of all the joints. But a lap joint, what type of load it is transmitting? What type of load transmits lap joints? Now.
Shear.
Shear only, but here if you see it is transforming this type of. Now what happens for the bolt? So lap joint, the problem is you can see here T, this load force, this is acting on this plate. So what happens? So these lines, if you draw this center, whatever the load lines, suppose if I draw this line also, say what happens? There is some small there line. What happened? There is some small
Moment couple.
Eccentricity is there. So what happens whenever there is eccentricity? So T times E, you may have some bending also. Okay, that also is a eccentricity will be there. Bending comes, but anyway, we ignore by taking large number of bolts or something like that. Okay, so generally it comes something like this. Okay, these are simplest joints. Now we also have this type of butt joint also will be there. Okay. So where you take two, these are the two plates, one plate here, another plate here. You put one plate on the top, another plate. So these two are what we call as a cover plates. Okay, the cover plates we say. So this is what single row butt joint, double cover this is. Okay, so this is a double cover. You have put cover plate on the top, cover plate on the bottom. So this is a single cover plate. So two plates are there. You have put only one cover plate. So you have variety, single row, double row, you followed, right? Variety things. But what happens, double cover, if you go for single cover, say the problem, what happens here? Yeah. See here how the load gets transferred. You can see T is here, T is here. Like lap joint, there was eccentricity, but here there is no eccentricity in butt joints. But if you have only one cover plate on the top, say what happens? The bolts.
Local buckling of the cover plate.
Buckling. So what happens? So here, because you have plate only one side only is there, the other side you don't have, right? So you are applying. So this also may create, you followed it, this type of problem. So which is the best one, double cover or single cover?
Double cover.
Double means you have everything symmetry. So it is things are very, very easy actually. Okay. So anyway, so this same slides once again I am showing you here. So I will stop here. We will continue in the next class. I will show you the how to design this, how to estimate the loads itself. Okay. And now I just before we this one, I think Yashvita, I think she has sent me a message in WhatsApp. Okay. So she is asking that third problem. Assignment third problem. I think some of you have doubts, right? What is the doubt? You tell me.
First, the last one.
No.
Dead load calculation part, if you can help out, then that would be great, sir.
Okay, so how do you calculate the dead load? Tell me. So I think that problem, what is the problem? The frame is steel. Okay, the frame is steel.
Yes, sir.
But walls are
Masonry.
masonry, brick walls. Okay, and the slab
Yes.
is
Concrete.
RCC, concrete kind of a thing.
Concrete.
Now
Beams
you
and
got
columns, sir.
beams and columns. Of course, the beams and columns are all
Okay.
steel because it is a steel frame. No.
Okay, sir.
See the question, if you see carefully, it is a steel movement resisting frame. So the frames are all of steel. So beams, columns, everything is of concrete. Sorry, this is steel only. But slab is concrete. Walls are masonry, the bricks actually.
Okay, sir.
Okay. And the column sizes also has been provided to you, right? What is the column sizes?
300 by 450 mm, I guess.
So now 300 by 450. So the dimensions are already given to you. The dead loads are also given to you, right? RCC.
The densities are given, sir.
The 25 you followed, right? The
Yes.
masonry also has been given to you. So now
Yes.
you calculate the dimensions, you know. So you know the dimensions, right? Suppose for a steel column, say, dimensions
Yes.
has been given you, and you know the height of the column also. So you multiply by that one, you will get the load on that corresponding floors. So I think
Yes,
your
sir.
problem. So you have, I think, 2 bays are there. I think 2 bays, right? Problem
Yes,
was
sir. 2 bits.
2 bays, and spacing was 5 meters,
5
and
meters.
height of the column was
3.3 meter.
3 point, and like this it is a 4-story, you know, the building kind of a thing. Okay, so now you have to thickness of the slab, you know, the dimensions also, you know, what is the dimensions of the slab?
100
Spacing
mm
is
thickness, sir.
100 mm is the
5
thickness,
mm
but
into 5 mm. Sorry, 5
5
meter
mm
into
to
5
5
meter.
yes. So this slab also you can calculate all the things, and you add it up actually.
Okay, sir.
So finally I want like this, so my building will be like this. You followed 4 floors, no?
Yes, sir.
So now this is the weight of this one, weight of this one, weight of this one, weight of this one actually.
Okay, sir. For each one we need to do separately, and then we need to.
See, for earthquake forces you have to do story wise forces, right?
Yes, sir.
So like the problem also we solved, so we have to find out weight of this one. So roof, say, you know, right? Roof, that you calculate, then you know this one you can. So here what you should do, you should have to, we have solved one problem, no? Dead load, live
Yes,
load
sir.
problem. So you
Yes,
have to add these two. Then here, say, all these things gets added, and you know, right? If the story is more than, I think, 2-story, live load has to be reduced by some 10%.
Point. Yes, sir. Here it is
10%.
more than 3, so it's 0.5, sir.
So that depends on the column. Okay, this column the load will be different.
That story concept should we apply here, sir? Because in the earthquake we directly reduce the live load, right, sir?
Okay, 25%. You can
Yes.
take that also.
Okay, sir.
Very good. That is 25% we already did, no, for earthquake. So
Yes,
that
sir.
itself we use. No need to worry about that one. Okay.
Okay, sir. Dead
Try.
loads alone we need to calculate separately.
So please understand, beams and columns are all of
Steel.
because it is steel movement resisting frame. And what is R value for steel movement resisting frame?
5.
5. Importance factor also. What are you taking importance factor? It is a residential building, means it is
Central building 1.
1 you can take. Okay, so that, so
Yes.
only dead loads only you have to calculate. Now it
Yes.
is, I am giving it to you, masonry walls. What happens? I have told you masonry walls. Okay, so you know the thickness of the wall. You can find out the wall dimensions, no, from the this one. Height,
What
you know,
height
the wall
3.3.
3.3, 5 meter, 5 meter. So the wall also, if the beam thickness, what is the steel beam thickness has been given, beam and column 400, 300 has been given, no? So you find out the wall dimension. You have to subtract them. Okay.
For wall, sir.
See, this is this one. So these are all steel.
Yes, sir.
This is a steel. This has its own dimensions, 300 by 400, whatever. Okay. So these are my things. Now you have to find out the wall dimensions also. See, masonry will be here. You will fill up this portion, no?
Yes, sir.
So now you have to subtract these portions also. If it is a 3.3, say, okay. So
Yes.
you know you have to subtract little bit 150 meter or something like that here, and wall dimensions you calculate 5 meter, whatever is here, and then you have to do the calculations.
Okay, sir. From 5 meter we need to subtract one dimension, and from 3.3 we need to subtract
Obvious, no?
another.
Because you have a steel and this one, no, wall will not be like 5 into 3.3, right? You have beam also, no, dimensions.
Okay, sir.
And if you want, you can add even plastering also. I leave it to you. Okay, and of course that may be too much. I am asking too much from you, so you just take masonry. Okay, don't worry about plastering.
I will try out this way and get back to you tomorrow, sir, if I don't.
You try. I will also
Yes.
send you, one help file also for all of you. So if you people are, I think you have done in RCC, you didn't calculate dead loads.
I don't remember, sir, because we directly did it for separate members. We didn't
No,
calculate.
no, no. This is what the problem in Dougal's book, which we have given. It's a practical problem. Okay, it's a try.
Okay, sir.
Otherwise,
Okay.
I will send you one help file for all of you. Okay, so one earthquake, nice problem, some 6-story building, we have a standard. I will send it to you. You just see how they are calculating the dead load. So don't worry about all other detailed calculations. Okay. So
Okay,
only
sir.
dead load. I will send you it in WhatsApp, the document. I think it will help you.
Okay, sir.
Okay. So I will send you and you go through that also.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.